Good afternoon. Hi there. How are you? Welcome into the Rational Male 101, episode 32, The 16 Commandments. My name is Pat Campbell, radio talk show host from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I am joined by the godfather of the manosphere, Rollo Tomasi, the Rational Male. Rollo, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good. Good to be back with you again.
Hey, I'm looking at my screen on the YouTube. I got a black screen. Nothing's coming up.
I'm looking at it right now. It's fine.
I wonder if I got to refresh on mine. Maybe I'll
it's probably on your end. Usually just refresh if I see that.
There we go. Nope, it's perfect. It's coming through now.
Yeah, it's just a refresh.
All right. So what we want to do today, and we've done this on my local program in Tulsa, and by the way, got a tremendous response on it too. But we want to revisit the 16 Commandments by Roissy. First of all, explain who he was briefly and what these are.
Okay, as everyone knows, I'm one of the 3 R's of the manosphere. It is Roosh, Roissy, and Rollo. Those are the 3 R's. Roissy is, I would say, arguably the most important of the 3 of us, I think, because he was instrumental in just sort of laying down a lot of what we kind of, I think, take for granted right now with respect to the red pill and a lot of the what you call it, the intersexual dynamics in game. And he came out back in like the late 2000s, and I was just prior. I came out just a little bit prior to him, not with my blog, but I was more involved in the So Suave forums at that time, and Roosh was doing his thing. We were all kind of doing our separate things, and Roissy had, arguably one of the most influential, I think, certainly the most trafficked blog in what would later become the manosphere. And just recently it's been taken down back in the end of April. But what happened is Roissy was he's a very strong writer. He has a definitive style to the way he writes and puts stuff out there. But back in 2009, he got doxxed by a woman who was almost like a cyber stalker of his, who was in his comments.
Right.
And so I'm just going by like what I have learned, in the past anyways, is that he got doxxed and he decided that he was going to just sort of, trash can the blog. He had Roissy in DC. And what happened then is a few other guys got together and they decided that they were going to save the blog. So they wanted to rename the blog, and he just wanted to get up and out of it. And nobody really knows why. It might have been his job or something. But so anyways, he was out, and some other writers came in, and now the rumor has it right now that it's written by 3, possibly 4 bloggers who chime in, and the nature of the blog really kind of changed. It was really rooted strongly in game and intersexual dynamics. And it kind of leaned over into like ethno-nationalism and politics, so racial stuff, that kind of stuff. And that's, if I have to guess, I would say that's probably why it was taken down by WordPress.
Real quick, they're only seeing me, not you.
Oh, yep, here we go. There you go. Sorry, my bad.
Yep.
So anyways, yeah, so it's one of the most important. Okay, it's one of the most important blogs. Let's just say it's one of the most important blogs in the sphere. Okay. The 16 Commandments, and I'm not going to say the end of that, so we could sort of be like family friendly here. But the 16 Commandments, let's just say they are the 16 Commandments of relationships or understanding women or getting involved in women. And a lot of these things, some of them are kind of self-evident, like you would say, well, yeah, of course. And then a lot of these other ones are, they go against common sense, but they're counterintuitive is what they are. And I think the most important part when you're reading these, when we go through these, is to ask yourself, why is it controversial right now? Why is this going to rattle the cages of, like, say, your listeners or just people who are unfamiliar with this kind of stuff? And the answer to that, or the way to, I think, to sort of filter all of this information through is, why is this controversial? Well, it's controversial because we are now like 2 or 3 generations in to a feminine primary social order. And when you are acculturated and you're socialized in this Western kind of feminism or this feminizing, making the female, making feminine, things, the Gestalt feminine, really, the the measure or the metric by which you interpret things like this. And so that's why it seems outrageous. And that's why, you'll get you'll get a rise out of somebody for talking like this. But these commandments are at least some of them are really old school. Like you would think, yeah, duh, like your grandpa probably knew this kind of stuff, and he didn't think he would never write something like this because it's like there was no reason to write it. That's just how you were raised. Well, now we have a generation where this is, first of all, it's controversial, but second of all, people need to hear this. They need to understand why they're in the difficulties that they're in when it comes to the relationships. And it's not just with your girlfriend or your wife. It could be like your sister or your mom or family kind of stuff as well. So it has variable applications.
All right, so I want to go through a couple of these. Let's start with the first one here. By the way, I've broke this one myself in the past, but I'm learning that women, we talk about this all the time. Women want to figure you out. When you provide them with the answers up front, it robs them of that thrill and it becomes boring. It becomes routine. But the rule number one here, never say I love you first. Women want to feel like they have overcome obstacles to win a man's heart. So why shouldn't the guy say I love you first? What do you lose if you do that?
Okay, primarily you lose frame. All right, that's a capitulation of frame. Now guys, like if guys who are blue pill conditioned are going to say, well, if you really love her, you should profess your love to her, and that's very romantic to say I love you. And boy, I can't. Of course, then they want to shame you for saying, well, I guess you can't be vulnerable to a woman, huh? I guess you're not secure in your own masculinity, huh? And really what it is, the reason that this the reason it is number one rule is it's a capitulation of frame. What happens is it puts you in a necessitous position. Now, remember, I think you and I have talked about the cardinal rule of relationships, which is the person with the most power in any relationship is the one who needs the other the least. And that's where this sort of gets reflected into. So when you say, I love you first, you have sort of, first of all, you made yourself very vulnerable. Number one.
I don't like that word because to me, that connotes weakness.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, let's look it up in the dictionary. You want to look it up in the dictionary? It says weakness. Thank you. Vulnerability is weakness. Vulnerability is vulnerability. It's not a strength. And I would love to do an entire show on it. As you know, I get heated when it comes to this kind of crap, but I could do an entire show of talking about why, like, it's one of those kind of, what was Ryan calls it, a container word. You can put whatever the hell you want into the term vulnerability and suddenly it's a strength or whatever. But if you when I was watching,
when I hear he's vulnerable, I think pussy. That's what you want.
Exactly. And that's the first thing you think. And here's the thing is, you as a guy or as a woman, you can't help but if you're going to come together with a woman, if you're going to form some sort of relationship, that entails some sort of vulnerability, because she's going to know what your weaknesses are. You're going to know what her weaknesses are. And you're going to have to either accept those things or you're going to have to break it apart. Okay. Vulnerability. Yes. It's going to be a part of your relationship, no matter what. It's not a strength. It's not something that builds you up. It's only something that builds you up if you are predominantly alpha, if you predominantly control the frame of that relationship. And then when you are vulnerable, then it's endearing. Then it becomes endearing, because then it makes the woman, and this goes back to what Roissy's talking about here. It makes a woman think that she's drawn that out of you. You're this tough, hard ass guy for a very long time, and that's your predominant character. Mm-hmm. And then when something happens, like maybe, your dog dies or your dad, something happens, and you're at a moment of weakness, and you can show that you can sort of like be comfortable enough to emote, I guess, in front of her. Then if she feels like, okay, he trusts me, it's something that becomes more endearing. It's the Beauty and the Beast thing. Right. The guy is he's this horrible beast, and women want to feel as if they have tamed the savage beast, right, with their intuition. And this is another quote that I have, which is, there's nothing more satisfying to a woman than to imagine that she has figured a guy out based on her intuition, on her mythological intuition. And the reason I put that out there is because that's a tool, that's something guys can use, is to say, you know what, if you're playing the game with her, if you're going to play along into this whole thing, rather than, like I always say, women want to play the game. They don't want to be told that they are playing the game.
Right.
So when you can, be at a moment where you're overcome with emotion or something like that.
Right.
If she's the only one that can tame the savage beast, if she's the only one that you do that for, it makes her feel more special. But it only makes her feel more special if your predominant character is like more alpha, right? Because if you're wearing your emotions on your sleeve and you believe that vulnerability is your strength, then that becomes your predominant character. And so you end up being this kind of emo, like poet, this tortured artist kind of thing. And that's cool for a little while, as long as you have other ways to like offset that. Like there are certain women who get off on the tortured artist archetype, but that gets old after a while. And particularly, it's fun when you're having short-term sexual relations with a woman and you're like this tortured musician or something. But in the long term, you become a burden. And it's too easy to get that out of you. You become a pussy. You become that kind of thing. So that's part of why you don't say I love you first, is so that you are maintaining that. Go ahead.
Let me play the advocate with this one. Okay. Is it time sensitive? And by that, I mean, does it matter what stage of life you're in? For example, we've talked to a lot of guys that are 40 and older who've been divorced. They're back out there in the dating scene. And chances are they're probably going to wind up dating somebody who's been through a marriage or two themselves. And, a woman, although she may feel it, she's going to be reluctant to say it because she's been burnt 2 times before. What ground does the guy lose by saying it first?
Well, because a woman is going to expect you to be predominantly like the dominant, personality in that relationship. And because it's the expectation of competency. Okay. So when you are, that's sort of the point of no return, right? When you say, I love you, you're when one stupid fool says, I love you, what is the other one supposed to say? Right. And she's supposed to say, well, I love you too. Right. Well, if she's not saying that, you've just put yourself out there and you've pretty much given away everything. That's the thing, is like I tell guys it's all the time. Well, okay, you want that one, because it's also, I should say this as well, it's also an indicator of genuine desire. Right. So if you have not said, I love you first, and she does, that is a capitulation to your frame. And that is, she has genuine desire. She's the one who is making herself vulnerable first, right? Because it shows that she wants to have. Now, this is if a woman is genuinely feeling this. Okay. I'm not saying that some women don't use this as sort of a manipulation tactic, right? I love you, that kind of stuff.
How about a compromise? Can I say, I lust you? Will that work?
Yeah. Oh man, I've got a post in my drafts folder right now, and it's called In Defense of Lust.
In Defense. There you go.
Everybody's going to love that one.
I love it already. Just the title.
Yeah.
I lust you. I lust you. So whoever says it first loses, or loses frame. Can you get the frame back?
Well, not necessarily, but I was just to say it puts you in a weaker position, right? It's like, who comes to the table first? And I hate to call it, a negotiation, because that's the way that we look at it. You can't negotiate genuine desire. So when a woman says, I love you first, it's because she's come to it on her own. It's not because she's been forced into it. It's not because she has to actually feel that to want to, because remember, women are the primary selectors for most of their lives. Let's say they're the primary sexual selectors. Men display, women choose, right? Well, when a woman chooses and she wants this guy to know that she chooses him, and she chooses to enter into his world. She chooses to enter into his frame, and wants to be a part of his family. And, as Steve Williams says, take his name, it makes him the prize. So she's qualifying herself to him. And there's no greater qualifier than saying, I love you, I love you, and as if waiting for it to come back. Okay, this is going to be really cool.
We got a little long here too.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, is like when a woman says she loves you, just say, yeah, I'm fond of you too.
I sort of like you too, or I
got
a little bit of a crush.
Really fond of you too.
All right, now number 2, make her jealous. You say flirt with other women in front of her. Is this applicable if you're single or single and married? Because I would think that if you're married, this could be a problem.
Okay, so these are like one of the reasons why I think that the 16 commandments are so influential, that they need to be like enshrined on, etched in stone somewhere, right, is because there's so much more to them than just the little quick short paragraph that goes right along with them. Right. What this is all about is dread. Okay. And sorry, read it one more time. The second
one. It says, make her jealous. It says, flirt with other women in front of her. Do not dissuade other women from flirting with you. Women will never admit this, but jealousy excites them. It arouses them.
You and I have talked about this as well. And another hot topic that I got in trouble for was that women cannot feel love for you until they feel jealousy for you. And the reason for that is because there has to be some sense of loss. Like if your attention has to be valuable to her. If your attention is not valuable to her, she's not going to say I love you first of all, and then second of all, she will feel no sense of loss. So it's just her doing her thing, you doing your thing. Maybe you come together for a night or two, and then you go your separate ways. That's not a relationship. That is not her entering into your frame. And so what happens is when you are open, when like a lot of guys don't have an opportunity for social proof. They don't have an opportunity for pre-selection. Like we were saying before, women select, men display. There are very few, for most guys, there's very few chances for them to actually show that they have some sort of status or that a woman will recognize. So especially when you're married. Right. When you're married, you're living with that person, and there's that familiarity that's in between the two of you.
Familiarity breeds
contempt. Right. And and why does it breed contempt? Well, because she's got you figured out, because you're predictable, because women want a man that other men want to be and other women want to have sex with.
Right.
And because that's social proof. That's saying, that's pre-selection is what that is other.
Once she's got you figured out, it's boring. The excitement's gone.
There's two things that are going on in here as well. He's talking about two things. It's active dread and passive dread. Another topic we could probably do a whole show on. The active dread part, I advise guys to sort of, shy away from that, because it borders ultimatums, and ultimatums are declarations of powerlessness. But the most powerful form of dread really is passive dread, and that's third-party dread. When you're not actively trying to fish for, attracting somebody or getting out there with that person, like flirting with the waitress at your table or something. If you're actively doing that, that's active dread. That's overt, in your face kind of dread. Like if this chick likes me and you can see that, and I'm with another girl, like, most guys won't use dread because they'll say, oh, she'll leave me, because they're beta and they have a scarcity mentality. But they're optionless. They're optionless. But the best form of dread really is passive dread or soft dread. And what that is like if you're somewhere and her girlfriends say, man, Rola's looking really hot today, or Pat, man, gosh, you're so lucky to be married to a guy like Pat. If she's getting that from her girlfriends or from outside sources, that inspires passive dread. There's nothing there. The number one tool in your game toolbox is a woman's imagination, and that's where this is rooted in.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to number 3. You shall make your mission, not your woman, your priority. In other words, concentrate on yourself, not on her. Elaborate on that one.
That's your mission. That I'm torn. I think this probably should have been number 1.
Really?
Yeah, because this is what happens is because guys are blue pill conditioned, they don't make themselves their own mental point of origin.
The woman's the prize.
The woman is the prize. Womankind is the prize. So when you're a little boy and you're 5 years old and you get affirmation from mommy and from all your female teachers throughout your life, when little girls, when you're a useful tool to a little girl and you carry her books home from school or whatever, that kind of stuff, you learn that at a very early age. And so that when you get to the age where you are a young man and you should have these ambitions and you should move on from where you're at, and you have every right to give yourself permission to ruthlessly pursue your passions and ruthlessly pursue your ambitions, and what those are the things that make you attractive, or they will eventually make you attractive later on once you have achieved a lot of these things. Guys don't give them, they prioritize a relationship, or they prioritize women's approval above themselves, above their ambition, above their own desire, because they aren't their mental point of origin. And by that, I mean, they're not their first thought when it comes to a decision-making process. So you hear these guys who say, well, I moved across the country, or I moved across the globe so that I could go, live with my long-distance girlfriend and happily ever after. Or I moved, or I changed my major, or I changed my university so that I could be closer to her. Or I changed something about I changed my religion, right? I changed something about myself, like a core element of myself, and I gave up my own ambitions and my own my drive for myself so that I could facilitate a relationship, because men are taught to put relationships are hard work, right? To put that relationship, to put that everything into their woman, and they make her the focus. And I've always said this: a woman should never be the a woman should only ever be a complement to your life. She should never be the focus of your life.
Here's the problem with this, though, especially with millennials. And I don't mean to pick on them, but you see so many guys 30 and under, they have no choice but to make her the focus, because they don't even know where they want to go. They're rudderless. They have no real ambition, no destination. They're just going around in circles. Right. So it's very easy for them to make her and concentrate on her. And at the same time, they're losing ground because other guys are improving themselves.
Right. And again, these are kind of these bonehead obvious things that, like, your grandfather would just be disgusted with you if you you made this woman like your everything. And again, like, the reason
that's actually one of the things that says you should never tell her that she's your everything. It says you must respect the woman's integrity and not lie to her that she is your everything. She is not your everything. And if she is, she will soon not be anymore.
Yep. Well, and then the reason why is that, because women need a guy who has other things going. Again, she wants your ambition. She wants your passion. She wants your drive for yourself to be what you're all about. And she wants to enter into your world. If you don't have that world and she is your world, then your world ends up falling apart once she's out of it. And that's how guys get zeroed out.
You're going to be the next Anthony Bourdain.
Exactly. Or my brother-in-law, right?
Yeah.
These are the kinds of guys, and it's not just millennials, because my brother-in-law certainly wasn't a millennial, but it's guys who believe that Disney one-itis soulmate crap. And they focus and center everything. They build a life around her. They build a life around, the happily ever after. Like my brother-in-law, before he killed himself, was literally building a house with his hands. Like, bought the land, was reconstructing this place and doing this renovation and everything, doing everything he could for the moment that when the kids were gone off to college, that he would have his wife at this place, and put himself into this, right? And when the rug is pulled out from under you, that's when you get zeroed out. That's when you lose everything, because she is your everything. And so not only is it dangerous because she, if she's the one, if she's your everything, if she is your only option, again, hypergamy is based on doubt. So she's going to be saying, well, if I can get this guy and I'm his whole world, then who else can I get, right? Can I do better? And so when that is whipped out from under him, not only does he lose the woman, he loses his entire world. That's why it's important to make your mission your focus.
All right. Number 4, don't play by her rules. This is sort of, controlling the frame. If you allow a woman to make the rules, she will resent you. And it says the strongest women and the most strident feminists still intuitively want to be led by and to submit to, and here's the key, a powerful man, a more powerful man.
Yes. I think this is pretty self-evident right here. If you've ever read anything from or listened to anything from Dr. Jordan Peterson, he is really strong when it comes to intersexual dynamics. He almost entirely focuses on dominance hierarchies. And I know he's changed his tune a little bit to competence hierarchies. And in competence, like, women look for competence in men. Women would very much love to have the guy who looks like Brad Pitt, is in fantastic shape, is funny, he's like the whole package, right? He has pre-selection. You're lucky to have him. He's like 1 to 2 steps above that woman in SMV, because why would she want anybody that's even at her own sexual market value level? Why would she want that? She wants something that's better. You're always looking for a better deal. That's why. Yeah. And that's what hypergamy is all about. It's finding the better than merited deal. And so if you are not, if you're not competent, if you're right. Guys will always say, I think a lot of guys sort of lose their minds about this because they think, well, if that's the way a woman is, then I'm going to opt out of the game and I'm done because I'll never be that guy. There's always a bigger fish, right? There's always a bigger and better dude. Well, yeah, but you have to put that into the context of what can the woman that you're with, what can she get? What can she realistically get? And what do you bring to the table that like maybe you have deficits. What do you bring to the table with strengths that offset those deficits?
Right.
And we don't think about it in those terms. Everybody's, and this is one thing I really, really hate about Twitter and the online sphere just in general is everybody focuses on binary extremes. Like that's like, it's the apex fallacy writ large for everybody. It's like, well, Brad Pitt will just come along and he'll steal my woman and he'll take her and impregnate her and I'll be screwed and I'm out. No, that's not going to happen. Okay. Because if you're bringing value to the table, if you're bringing competency to the table, then that's what a woman is looking for. If you're the most powerful guy, if you're the best that she can get, if you're answering that hypergamous doubt, if you're the best that she can get, then no, she's not going to do that. She's going to focus her energies and her efforts on you so long as you're maintaining that. So yes, they want to default to that, but also think about it in terms of competency. And you have to be a guy who is competent at a lot of different things. So that means you got to fix a car. You got to go to the gym. You got to earn a living. You got to be a good father. Think about all of the checklists that you have to have. And I'm saying you don't have to have every single one, but you have to at least be somewhat competent in a lot of different things. And that is what is meant by submitting to a powerful man. Submitting to a competent man is really what it should be.
Says she wants somebody that's strong, solid, unshakable, and immovable. Okay, let's get to number 5, the golden ratio. This is the one that got you in so much hot water on my show. It says, give your woman 2/3 of everything she gives you. For every 3 calls or text messages, you give 2 back. 3 declarations of love, earn 2 in return. 3 gifts, 2 nights out. Give her 2 displays of affection and stop until she's answered with 3 more. When she speaks, you reply with fewer words. When she emotes, you emote less. The idea behind the golden ratio is twofold. It establishes your greater value by making her chase you, and it demonstrates that you have the self-restraint to avoid getting swept up in her personal drama. Refrain from reciprocating everything she does for you in equal measure. It instills in her the proper attitude of belief in your higher status, in her deepest loins. I love that. It is what she truly wants. This infuriated female callers, listeners on the radio station, because they said, "What keep a spreadsheet on his wife? How does this work?"
Right.
This, I'll tell you what though, is a guy and former trad clown, right? It's almost I don't know, maybe because my age, I don't have time for games like this.
Right. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Is if you're a natural alpha, if you're a guy who has, you're lucky with the ladies, right? You're not actually lucky. You were lucky as far as the genetic lottery was concerned. If you are a natural with women, you don't think about things like this. You don't think about like, who keeps a spreadsheet? That's just game. That's just manipulations. That's just playing games, right? I don't have time for games. Well, of course you don't, because you're already doing it and you don't realize that you're doing it. Because what happens is if a guy is a natural alpha, if he's a natural guy that women are naturally attracted to, he's actually doing that. He's not calling her. It's not tit for tat, right? It's not like I'll call you, you call me. It's not like that at all. He has his own life. He's doing his own thing. She has to follow after him, just like in the previous rule after that, before that. The woman has a genuine desire for that guy, and she wants to follow along and she wants to follow into that guy's frame. Well, what that guy is doing is exactly what this rule is doing. He's just doing it unconsciously. And that's where people lose this, is they think that if you are consciously playing that game, then you are a manipulator and that there's something wrong with you because you're keeping score, right? Well, okay, she gave me 3 kisses. I give her 2. Well, here's the thing is guys who are above a woman in sexual market value and they have other options, this kind of ratio is going to manifest itself anyways. So it's not like when we bring it up and we expose the 2/3 rule, it seems horrible and it seems like manipulative, right? But most people will do if you're in a natural relationship where a woman cedes her authority to that guy. The guy gets headship. Let's just put it in a religious sense here.
Right.
If the man has a natural headship and she's following after, and she submits into her role as a woman, that's going to naturally, she wants this. Women want this ratio, because remember what we were saying before, she wants to draw that out of you. Just like when you don't say, I love you in the beginning, she wants to draw that out of you. She wants to think that she has earned that from you. Now, you and I have also talked about how some guys will self-deprecate automatically. They will always go, oh, I love you, honey. Or I can't believe that my wife would go out with a schmuck like me. Right. We talk about the politicians who do that all the time. Now, that's the opposite of this rule. That's the guy who's giving out 3 for every 2 that she has because she's the prize. He's not the prize. And what happens is women feel, again, they feel self-satisfied when they believe that they have drawn you out. Like they're the only one with the magical feminine power to get you to emote just to her. And it's a gift. It's a reward to that woman, because here's this guy who she sees as being at least one step above her in sexual market value. And he's got other things going, and he doesn't have the time to give her, one kiss for one kiss. He is off doing his own thing. He comes back and has a relationship and goes off and do his other thing, because he has a mission. What?
When you say that, the reward thing, that's another trigger with female listeners.
Oh,
because it makes Rolo talks about us like we're puppies being trained. Here's your treat. The reward thing triggers them. It's like the word feral. When you say that, it's like, whoa, man, it's just off the.
Yeah, well, and I use terms like that, or if I say that men love idealistically and women love opportunistically, I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm not saying that to say, oh, you guys are all gold diggers, or I'm not saying that at all. It's just it's the only term that comes with it. And unfortunately, opportunism has a negative connotation to it. Women are naturally opportunistic when it comes to their love. They have to be. They have to look for the best thing for themselves, because their lives are intimately connected with who it is that they get with, or if they get with somebody at all, because that's sets the tone or sets the frame for their lives. Well, am I going to have kids? Am I going to have a stable family? Am I going to do these kinds of things, or am I not going to do that? So when women get really upset when I say feral, that's another one of those connotations. I'm just saying that there's a naturalistic base nature to women, and sometimes they switch back into that. And so when we say the 2/3 rule, remember what I told you before, is that women want to play the game and they don't want to be told about the game. Right. Okay. When you start outlining the 2/3 rule, you are showing them the game. And it's ugly, and they hate it, and they hate me, and they hate you, and they hate everybody who opens this up. But you know what? Because they hate it, because they know that that's their nature. They know that they want to submit to a powerful man. They know that they want to submit to a guy who's competent and has his own life goal. All of this, every rule here dovetails into the other rules. Right. So if a guy is his own mental point of origin, if he has his own direction, he's not going to have the time to say, okay, I got 2 or 3 or whatever. Oh, she gave me 2 hugs. I got to call her because I owe her a call. No, that's not happening, because you've internalized this already. It's just what you do naturally as a dominant guy who has his own life and has his own direction. She wants to follow after that because she wants to submit to a worthy guy, and that's in there as well.
Okay. The next one, number 6, keep her guessing. And I do this all the time, just like intuitively, not only with women, but with my kids, just people in general. People that ask questions, it says true to their nature. Women ask questions they don't really want direct answers to. It says, woe be the man who plays it straight. His fate is the suffering of the beta. Evade, tease, obfuscate. She thrives when she has to imagine what you're thinking about her, and withers when she knows exactly how you feel. This has been one thing I've learned talking to you, all the programs we've done, especially for people that have been married or in a relationship for a long time. The longer you're together, all of that mystery is gone. There's nothing mysterious about you. I got you all figured out. It's boring, and the excitement's gone.
Perfect.
That's why you see the great divorce and everything else is going on.
I'm going to quote Pook here. You don't know who Pook is, but I'll tell you, perfect is boring. If you're the perfect boyfriend, you're boring. Remember, women have a need for indignation. you might as well be the one that's giving her that indignation, because if you don't, she's going to go find it elsewhere. She's going to find it through her friends. She's going to find it through daytime talk shows. She's going to find it through literature. She's going to find it watching Aquaman. That's what's going to happen. Okay. She's going to find some reason because women thrive on indignation. They need the dopamine hit that comes from indignation. I should probably explore this a little bit more. I have one post called Indignation where I look into this a little bit, but I'm almost certain there's probably some evolutionary reason why women need indignation. So when you might as well be the one that's giving her to that, don't deny her you being a challenge. Now I'm going to go all Shrek on you here. You need to be an onion, right? You need to be, she needs to peel you away layer by layer. In the old school pickup artist community, it was always, if you wanted to be a good conversationalist with a woman, if you wanted to do an effective seduction, you had to be someone that she wanted to unravel. You had to be someone that I have another post. It's called Breadcrumbs, right? And what Breadcrumbs is you just give her just enough information to draw her in, and she thinks she's figuring you out, but you are playing the game back with her by drawing her in. And so, and again, this is just in a seduction. This is not like a long-term thing. This is just like a guy meets a new girl, girl meets a new guy, and they're coming together. Now, all of that goes away once you have familiarity. When you start, another reason why you don't live with a woman unless you're going to marry her. And even after that, even if you've been with a woman for like say a year, whether you're married or whatever, she knows what your farts smell like, right? She knows how you brush your teeth. She knows when she knows when you go to the bath. She knows what you look like, when you're having sex, that right. Kind of stuff. That kind of intimacy. And so that's all great, and it's fun and it's comfortable. And if you can still keep it romantic, hey, great. But the thing is
comfortable is boring.
Comfortable is boring. Perfect is boring. Predictable is boring. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the hardest things. Like I had a guy who tweeted me just this morning, and he said that his wife had just mentioned something about how she doesn't even know who he is anymore because he started going to the gym, started dressing better, did his hair differently, been reading my books, I don't know whether he's running, game, like Married Game or something on her right now, but she has said that she doesn't even know who he is anymore.
That's passive dread, though.
But it is passive. Exactly. That is passive dread. She's picking up on that. And why is she picking up on that? Because she's lost a degree of control over the guy. So now he's not predictable. And that's exciting for a woman, but it's also jarring for her as well, because now he has the potential to become someone that she can't control, and someone that she I'm sure like a lot of couples would do this. Like if one person in that couple like starts going to the gym and getting in better shape, the other one will try to either pull that other one back, or she'll go into fits of depression, or vice versa. Usually when a woman decides that she's going to go hit the gym after she's been,
she's already checked out.
She's already checked out, man. She's already gone. So, so those are kinds of things that relate to this rule.
Now, we've talked about that with numerous callers on the program. That's the one thing guys miss. If you're a guy and you're, 35 or older, and you've been married to a woman or living with a woman for a good amount of time, if all of a sudden, out of the blue, somebody who has never been into the fitness lifestyle all of a sudden develops it's a warning sign. In fact, at that point, it might even be too late for you, because she's checking out. She's probably got her eyes on somebody already. She's making herself better so that she's going to have more value once she shakes you off.
Yeah.
And guys don't get that. They're like, oh, until it's too late.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
All right. Number 6. We did keep her guessing, right? Okay. Yeah. Number 7. Always keep 2 in the kitty. I love this one. Never allow yourself to be a kept man. A man with options is a man without need. It says it builds confidence. It encourages boldness with women. If there is another woman, a safety net to catch you in case you slip and risk a breakup, divorce, or lost prospect, leading to the loneliness in a grinding dry spell. Talk about this though too, even with respect to married guys. You're not saying that you got to go out, and have multiple affairs, but that there's other options out there, and that she should know she's not the only game in town.
Right, exactly. And this is exactly what I mean when I say spin more plates, because spinning more plates and Having options, the two in the Kiddie thing right here, that's just having more options. That's having other proven options. I know you're a fan of Like Us 101, so I'm going to go like us on you here.
Sure.
You need to have those options so that if you're pursuing another plate and that doesn't go anywhere, then you've got two more on speed dial to have sex with or to be with or whatever. If you're a Christian guy and you don't believe in premarital sex, you still owe it to yourself to date non-exclusively. And that's all this really comes back to is non-exclusivity. Why do you want to be that way? So you don't get caught up in one-itis, you don't get caught up in the soulmate crap, so that if one doesn't work out, well, that's the thing, is it teaches you that if you can do, like most guys who are naturals, and they have like multiple girlfriends. It's like, remember in the Breakfast Club when Claire goes through Bender's wallet and she's looking at the girls in his wallet, and she goes, "Are all these your girlfriends?" And he looks at me and goes, "Some of them I consider girlfriends, and some of them I consider friends." and that's all he left it at. I mean, it's like, that's like 80s game right there.
Here's the thing with options, though. I think of it this way. Somebody who's worked, for a shop or for a company for like 20, 25 years, out of the blue, they get laid off, or, the company's going out of business. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do because they don't have an up-to-date resume. They haven't networked, any of that stuff. That's what the married guy, you should ask yourself, okay, if my wife all of a sudden left me tomorrow or died, what would I do? What are my options?
Right. Then we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of this list here, is making yourself your mental point of origin. So you have to be the one that women want to get with and other guys want to be. This should be encouragement for you to make the most of yourself and to be the best version of yourself. But the thing is confidence is derived from options. It's having options, actionable options. And it's also having the understanding that that you can generate other options. And this is not just about interpersonal relationships, it's about anything. So if you're a guy who has had you have a lot of money and suddenly you don't have any money, well, that you have been able to generate money in the past because you're innovative. You can improvise very well. You're creative. You've proven to yourself that you're a proven commodity and you can make things happen for yourself as well. So you're not getting zeroed out because that you can spring back from that. Guys who don't have that get zeroed out and they kill themselves. So when your woman becomes your all and she's the only thing in your life, and you have that scarcity mentality because this is called strategic pluralism theory. Guys who are lower SMV tend to focus on one girl or one reproductive option, whereas men who have higher SMV go and look for multiple options because they can explore those options, and they tend to be less prone, I guess, to one-itis or the soulmate myth, whereas guys who are lower SMV tend to they believe in what's called relational equity. They think that because they've invested so much in a relationship that a woman will appreciate that, and it will be something that can overcome hypergamy, or it'll be something that can overcome the sexual marketplace, and they are in for a rude awakening, particularly in a global sexual marketplace. But so confidence is derived from those options. Like you were saying before, you don't go and ask for a raise, or you don't go and talk to your boss about your work conditions or something unless you have another job already lined up. I mean, think about it. That's just how we do it. That's how when I was working in the corporate world, that's how I did. I got every raise I ever got was because I said, I'm going to go over here and work for this guy. What do you got? Work with me here, because I already had that option available to me and I could go move on. So that's okay in the work world, but that's not okay in the relationship world. I don't think so. So you need to spin more plates, and it's not just about having sex with as many people as you possibly can. It's about having options. It's about resisting the soulmate myth. It's a resisting of that scarcity mentality.
All right, let's get to number 8. This is another one that just got everybody infuriated when we brought it up on the program. Say you're sorry only when absolutely necessary. In fact, you said you've got a rule where you limit yourself to 2 sorries per relationship. Let me read it, right?
No, well, that's a Roissy rule. That's what you'll read it here.
Okay. Do not say you're sorry for every wrong thing you do. It is a posture of submission, that no man should reflexively adopt, no matter how alpha he is. Apologizing increases the demand for more apologies. Think about that, right? As she will come to expect your contrition, like a cat expects his meal at a set time each day, and then your value will lower in her eyes. Instead, if you've done something wrong, you should acknowledge your guilt in a glancing way without resorting to the actual words, "I'm sorry." Pull the Bill Clinton maneuver and say, "I love this. Mistakes were made." It's got to be one of my favorites.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah. Or tell her, I feel bad about what I did. See, that's not really admitting you're sorry.
It's not an apology. It's just I feel bad for what I did.
Yeah, I feel bad. I'm sorry it upset you. And that's really not an apology either. That's a non-apology, right?
Right.
It says, and you are granted 2 freebie "I'm sorries" for the life of your relationship. Use them wisely, my friend.
Well, the key to this is understanding what you should be sorry for and what you should not be. So what deserves an apology and what does not. And that's where guys lose it.
Give me some examples, concrete
examples.
Why?
Okay, again, we're going to ask why. Why is this even a rule? Why is that even controversial to, like, say, your listeners or any woman, really? Because they want contrition. It's a form of control. It's
genuine contrition. That's, growing up Catholic, when you go to confession, you're not only supposed to be sorry for your sins, you're supposed to be genuine. You have to have genuine contrition for your sins.
Yeah, I mean, you have to beat yourself up, right? But look at, and I hate to use politics, but I'm going to use politics here. Donald Trump doesn't apologize for anything because he knows that you never do that. What happens to celebrities when a social justice warrior mob comes up and runs them up the flagpole for something that they said, or maybe it's a Me Too kind of thing. Like Kavanaugh did the same thing. Kavanaugh was very contrition. There it is, right? And he apologized because it never ends. It's all it is it's a confirmation for that person for what they've been saying about you. Now, if you apologize for it, you're basically saying, "Got me," or, mea culpa, right? I agree with you. And it doesn't end there. Guys think, in politics and in social circles, if you apologize, that's going to be the end of it. And they're going to, like, everybody is like a genuine actor, or they're acting in some frame of honesty, and they're not. And you have to sort of weigh what is worth apologizing for in a relationship with a woman than what, and figure out what isn't. Most guys, because they are, they're necessitous, because they're beta, because they're blue pill, because they have a scarcity mentality, because they don't make themselves their mental point of origin, because they made that woman their mission. It is natural for them to say, I'm sorry. Oh,
what should guys apologize? Give me some example. For example, if you've maybe spoken to her harshly, if you've made her cry, what am I supposed to apologize for?
Well, I mean, I understand that if you are like, if you're getting drunk and you are saying things when you're drunk, then maybe that's something that you want to apologize for. Maybe that's, because you're out of your mind, or you're not thinking, you're under the influence. So you're not making good judgment calls. So maybe that's something, but I think that it depends on what it is that we're talking about. So what's worth it? Well, see, most women will say, well, if you can't apologize, that means you're insecure and you're masculine. No, it doesn't. It just means that I am thinking about things the way that I'm intended to say something, and the way that you are reacting to it. And now, because you're in my frame, and because I have myself as my own mental point of origin, now I have the prerogative to say, you're acting silly. That's not what I meant. I'm not saying I'm sorry. I'm just saying you interpreted that wrong, or mistakes were made, right? Or you can euphemize stuff. And I'm not saying, and even Roissy here says, you still can say I'm sorry, but you only get so many of those. It's not that you shouldn't apologize for things that are, genuinely something that you would need to apologize for. It's just that most guys think they need to apologize for anything. Like, if a woman takes your words the wrong way and she gets upset and she cries or whatever, like, is it your fault for saying what you said, or is it her fault for interpreting it in a way that you didn't intend?
Nowhere is that more true than the texting world. I tell you, we've talked about this before. It's I can text 2-3 sentences, and I guarantee you it can be misinterpreted. Guarantee it.
Right. Well, and then guys will think,
if I send it to you or another guy, you're going to think exactly what I thought.
Right. Well, guys are going to watch this and they're going to say, well, I can't believe he says don't apologize for anything. I'm not saying don't apologize for anything. Okay. What I'm saying is that because you are the primary player in your relationship, because you are the dominant, confident, competent male in your relationship, you are the one that gets to decide how it is that she, like, what your intent is and
right.
how she interpreted that intent. And most guys won't give themselves permission to do that because that woman is the primary. That woman is the one that is their all. It's their soulmate. And God forbid they actually ever offend their soulmate. It's okay to offend your significant other if it's something, and not just to be a jerk, but just like if it's something that you feel strongly about, if it's something that is like, maybe you're doing this, maybe you're saying, hey, look, you're giving her some personal advice. Here's a woman you've chosen to spend the rest of your life with. I would say that she, you know, we always say women want honesty, but they never want full disclosure. Well, you at least should be honest with her and say, hey, look, you could do this better in your life. Or, you know, we need to work on this part of our relationship in some way. And if she gets upset about that, that's not something that you're going to apologize for, because you have a genuine vested interest in her because you love her, because you are in a relationship with her. She's taken that as you know, something that she either misinterprets or she can't handle the truth that you're giving to her. Never apologize for the truth. Never apologize for the truth.
Here's part of the problem with guys, because so many of us have been brainwashed with the egalitarian, you know, concept that we're equal, right?
Yeah.
You think that you can talk to a girl or a woman the same way you talk to a guy, and you can't.
No.
Because especially when it comes to emotional issues. I use the line from The Devil's Advocate. It's like a butterfly's wings. Once touched, never gets off the ground. They can look tough, they can act tough, but deep down inside, especially if they're really feminine, they're going to be easily injured by something that wouldn't even make either one of us blink.
Right, because guys have been conditioned to treat women with kid gloves, because if they don't, then they don't get any. Right. If they don't invest everything, if they don't support, if they're not the supportive, good listener, if they're not living for women and womankind, then you're a jerk. And of course, women love jerks, but they're not going to say that. You know, whenever a woman says, oh, you ask a woman, say, what do you want in a guy? She's going to tell you all the things that she's attracted to.
Right.
She's not going to tell you about the arousal side. She's going to talk to you about all the attractive side of things. And so what guys do is they try to embody that because they think that that's what's going to get them to sex. So as part of that, they ask that question. They say, what do you want? So they try to build themselves up and become her ideal, her perfect boyfriend. But as a result of that, guys, the worst thing in the world for a guy who makes women his mental point of origin is to offend a woman. And that's why when we talk about this, when your listeners got all crazy about, you know, not apologizing, the reason is because so many guys are supplicative, I think that's a word, towards women, and women believe that they should be in that position. They should always be the one who is apologized to. When's the last time a woman apologized to you? Really, when is and I would put this to anybody watching this or anybody listening to this. Think about this. When was the last time a woman actually sincerely, genuinely said, you know what, sorry, I apologize for something? I would say 90% of the time when there's an apology between a man and a woman, it's the man apologizing to the woman.
Mm-hmm. You still with me?
Yeah. What's the next one?
Okay. All right. It says connect with her emotions. This is number, 9. Set yourself apart from other men and connect with a woman's emotional landscape. Her mind is an alien world.
Indeed it is.
That requires deft navigation to reach your rendezvous. Frolic in the surf of emotions rather than the arid desert of logic. Be playful, employ all your senses, describe in lush detail scenarios to set her heart afire. Give your feelings freedom to roam. Roam, he says. Yes, that's a good word. You're not on a linear path with her. You're roaming. Pick it up on there.
Okay. Well, what he's talking about here is playing with her and playing with her. Now, most guys won't do this because guys think that because they're in the dominant alpha male role that women should cater to his communication style, which is overt. Women should just be rational. Women should just change their way of thinking. So when I've talked about instinct, emotion, and reason, those are the three aspects of these three interpretive processes that human beings have. It's an instinct, emotion, and then reason. So those are the ways that we realize our world.
That's like expecting a greyhound not to run.
Yeah. Well, that's instinct. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's instinct, which we all do. We all start with instinct. So if something like flies at me and I flinch, that's instinct. That I'm behaving, something's coming at me. That's the natural response. Okay. Those are that's the most basic form of instinctual processing. The next one is emotion. Like, how does something make you feel? The next one after that, of course, is reason, and interpreting all of this information and then processing it. Well, women naturally have a proclivity to process information in this order: instinct, emotion, and reason. For men, the natural order is instinct, reason, and then emotion. And that's just the way that we are wired. Now, guys will say, well, I'm emotional too. Well, the reason that you're emotional is because it's been overridden. Your firmware has been overridden by the software that your female teachers and your feminine primary social order has taught you since the day you were 5 freaking years old. Okay. So you think like a girl. And you process information and instinct, emotion, and reason. What we were just talking about before, it's like, you need to be emotional. Like, and even this one, you need to allow her to be emotional. Fine, that's great. Play along into that, play along with her. But most guys, if they are a dominant masculine alpha guy, they think in this way: instinct, reason, and then emotion. So they have some instinctual understanding of what the information in their world is. Then they apply reason to it. Now, instinct is instantaneous. Usually it's something that happens right there in the moment. Reason takes longer. Reason takes learning. It's a process of like recall and putting it out there and then making decisions and doing behaviors based on what you've seen in the past. Emotion is how you feel about that. Now, remember, emotion is not some magical godly thing that comes out of heaven on high. Okay. It is emotion is something that you feel physically. We can prompt emotions with chemicals. We can prompt emotions with roid rage, right? If you have steroids and synthetic testosterone in your system, you're going to get pissed off. You can go into anger and aggression, right? Oxytocin. I can put oxytocin into your bloodstream and you're going to feel loving and kind and all this stuff. So you're going to feel things, an emotion, as the result of a biological physical process. So don't think for an instant that emotion has some sort of metaphysical quality to it. It's not. We like to. I'm not saying it's not necessary. It is. But that was another way that human beings can interpret their surroundings and interpret things. And so when women opt for emotion, that's what they want to put their language and their communication styles and everything else through. They want to put it through the emotional filter before they even get to reason, if they even do get to reason. For men, it is instinct, reason, and then emotion. So after we've interpreted what's going on, maybe then we go, God, that made me feel like crap, or, oh gosh, I'm sad because of this. So it comes after we've processed it through reason. So what he's saying here is that you have to accept that part of a woman's nature. She's going to be emotional. You have to understand what she's going to be. And then, like he was saying before, you have to be the bulwark. You have to be the lighthouse in the storm.
Don't let her manipulate you with the emotions.
Exactly. And so it's important to understand that. And then the other thing that he's saying here is that women want to play the game and they don't want to be told about the game. Now, I have another post, and now I'm going to have to put this one in the description. I have a post called Appeals to Reason. And the reason that I wrote that post was because, and this is something that guys do, is we're deductive problem solvers.
Right.
We want to know how to get from point A to point B in the most direct line as we possibly can. So if a guy wants to have sex, he goes, okay, A gets what's the most rational, what's the most deductive process for me to get sex? Well, I got to go ask a woman what it is she wants from a guy. Then I've got to be that. Then maybe I'll get sex, right? That's his male deductive reasoning. And so what happens is there's no emotion in that. There's no feeling in that. And so it's just this kind of analytical, dry, it's like Mr. Spock trying to figure out how to get with a woman. And women don't want that. They want to be playing in the game. They want to play that game. Now, most guys will say, well, I don't want to play any games with any woman because I'm the man and she's the woman. And, and she's just as equally rational as I am, or she should be, because they believe in egalitarian equalism. They believe in the blank slate.
She wants that playfulness.
Yeah, they believe that, and this is what we're taught. This is what young men are taught: is that men and women are equals. That they are functionally they are equal to the other. And so if I'm rational and reasonable, she must be rational and reasonable too. Right. So that's the way I'm going to do. No, that's not the way it works. And most guys know that instinctually. They go, okay, I got to appeal to her emotions.
All right, so I want to get to number 10, and it's ignore her beauty. And let me set this up though too. This is another one, sort of like love. When we talked about love on my local program a long time ago, I was looking for a balance, because if you say it too often, it just becomes noise. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything, right? If you don't say it at all, there's an emptiness. So what's the perfect balance? In this beauty thing here, every woman, I don't care how young, how old, wants to hear that she's pretty, that she's beautiful. My mother's 83. She still likes to hear, you look beautiful, when she's dressed up for church or wherever she's going, right?
Right.
There is a thirst, an intuitive thirst for that. So it says, the man who trains his mind to subdue the reward centers of his brain when reflected upon a beautiful female face will magically transform his interactions with women. His apprehension and self-consciousness will melt away, paving the path for the more honest and self-possessed interactions with the objects of desire. This thing with me, in fact, I don't think I've shared this story on air, but I know a lady, she's a little bit over 40. And I think she was married twice, right? But she had never been told by a guy that she's beautiful. She's a very attractive lady. Very attractive lady. And it's like, seriously, nobody ever told you you were beautiful. And she's been married twice. And that, but there's a thirst. Women want to hear that too. And I think I'm a little bit like you in this respect. When I say things, it's genuine. I don't say things to puff people up. I mean, if you're attractive, I'm going to let you know. Right. But if you're not, I'm not going to lie to you. If somebody says, does this make me look fat? That's the one we did a show on that before. But I'm straightforward with stuff like that. But the beauty thing, it can be a two-year-old granddaughter, 2-year-old daughter, or somebody in their 20s, or even, like I said, like my mom. They want to hear that. It's important to them.
Yes, exactly, because they understand instinctually that a woman's primary agency over men is her sex appeal, is her how good she looks. That's why it gets so disturbing for women when they hit that epiphany phase and they realize that their power over men is fading. When little girls are like 4 and 5 years old, and the little boys like fall all over themselves because they just want to sit next to them in the lunchroom. That's power. For women who are like my mom she'll almost be 80. She's going into an assisted living, place, and she still wants to have her hair done. She still wants to have my sister-in-law come out there and do her hair. Right. And so she still is interested in that because she still wants to look good. She still has her thing.
With dads though, in particular with kids, daughters, you have, if they don't get that from you, they're going to get it from somebody else.
Yeah. And I've always been that way. Yeah. So but here's the thing. There's a difference between giving a genuine compliment and then like feeling like you are obligated to give that compliment.
And it becomes noise.
Well, it does, because what happens is, like, my daughter's very, very beautiful. My daughter does pageants, and she's a model, and she's done I don't want to get too much into that, but she very good looking girl, and she does like to hear, that she is gorgeous. But like for dad to say that, it's like, yeah, hey, okay, thanks, dad, kind of thing. She's not looking for my affirmation. She's looking for outside affirmation. But prior to her, she's 21 now, but when she was a little girl, she loved that, man. She loved to have that, daddy likes this, daddy likes me kind of thing. And it crosses over. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if you're a really good looking girl, then you have to understand what your friends are going to think about you. And there's always going to be those kind of clashes there, because it's like the pretty girl and the mean girl. But what he's saying here is, don't get too wrapped up in that. It's okay. This goes back to compliments. And I'm going to sound really bad when I say this, is that compliments need to be a reward for a woman. They need to be something that is positive reinforcement. You don't just give a compliment to give a compliment. And I hate that is like the game that has, if you're thinking about it, it becomes a game. If you're not thinking about it, it's just who you are. So when you give when a guy gives flowers to a girl, it's usually because either A, he's trying to get with her, or he wants something. Like flowers are no longer just like a gift. They're like an they come with a price tag for a woman. Or he messed up, and so now he wants to give her flowers to make up for some, misgiving that he did, right?
We got a place here in Tulsa, Fine Airport Parking. It's by the airport. And the owner, Mike Fine, gives away roses to every customer that comes back. He gives you a rose to take home to your wife, right? And he was telling me, or wife or girlfriend, or whoever. And he was explaining to me that a lot of guys turn them down. And it was funny because I was standing at the counter with him one day, and I watched two guys go through back to back. One guy initially said yes, and then he said, "Wait a minute, she'll think I did something wrong." And the other guy behind him said something similar, like, "Well, if I bring her something, she's going to think I was cheating on her or I did something wrong." So it's just what you're talking about. This is like a makeup gift for some offense.
Right. It's an obligation is what it is. There's some subtext that goes along with that. So those are just like, you got to understand, like, I'm not trying to say like be a jerk and only give her compliments when she does desired behavior. But if you give compliments over and over again, or if she's beautiful, and like most guys do this, like they'll learn game, and maybe they're virgins, or maybe they've only had sex with a couple of girls or something, and they learn game, and all they ever want to learn about game is just, how do I get the girl? Once I get the girl, I'll be fine, right? I don't need any red pill stuff, Rolo. Just tell me how to get the girl. They practice all this crap.
Right.
They get a girl, and the girl's maybe, because they learned it well enough, she's maybe 1 or 2 steps above him in sexual market value. Well, now he doesn't know what to do with himself, and he's trapped by her beauty because he's never unplugged. He's never like killed his inner beta. He's never like really gone from blue pill to red pill, but he did get the girl. And so now he's trapped in a relationship that is not in his frame, or he doesn't feel like he can maintain that frame, and he's going to lose her. And because he has this scarcity mentality, because he has this idea about he catches one-itis, right? And so her beauty is what locks him into really dangerous decisions and dangerous habits and, dangerous ways of thinking. And so that's why once you have, God, I don't know if I want to tell this story or not. Once you have been with like a really beautiful woman, and that ends, sometimes it hits you harder because you're like, I'll never find a chick as hot as that, or she was a Playboy playmate or something like that. Or if you're spinning plates and you are red pill aware, and you have pre-selection, and you have options, and you have other things, it's not going to affect you as much. And so what he's talking about is ignore her beauty, because it will put you into a frame of mind of you have something to lose, right? Courage is, sometimes courage is just like not having anything to lose. And so if you have like other options, once you have dated like a swimsuit model or a centerfold or something like that, then you go, okay, I've got that. And it ceases to be that magical goal that you had since the time you were 14 years old. And you move on to something else, because now you can ignore you've been with one girl who is really, really beautiful. You can ignore if you can ignore her beauty, you can ignore pretty much any other woman's beauty, because it is women's primary agency over you. If you can take that away, like if you say, hey, we're not having sex tonight, or you turn her down for sex, then that is like a blow to a woman's ego. Why? Because it removes that element of control over her, and their primary agency.
That's a massive head screw. Be like,
oh yeah,
what's going on? What's wrong?
Yep.
Is there somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, what's the next one?
Next one was be irrationally self-confident.
Okay, what number are we on? Excuse me.
Number 11.
It's 11. Okay.
Irrationally self-confident. No matter what your station in life, stride through the world without apology or excuse. Does not matter if objectively you are not the best man or woman can get. What matters is that you think and act like you are.
Right. This is fake it till you make it. In recent times, a lot of people have been saying that this is nonsense, that you should actually be who you say you are. I think that when you're starting out, this is fantastic advice, and this is exactly the way you need to think, because this is the only way to kickstart yourself into the next level. What is it, 48 laws of power? It's like, never accept the roles that society places on you, right? Or think like a king, or act like a king to be a king, or think like a king. I can't remember what it is. But pretty much it's like, when you treat yourself as as royalty, other people will see that. I'm not saying you got to, well, maybe this is like when Jordan Peterson talks about, like, stand up straight, stick your chest out, make your bed, blah, blah. Those are really easy things to do. Well, why is that? Because it's sort of, those are that's posturing of confidence. And maybe you don't actually have that confidence because you don't have the options, but it has to start somewhere. And where does it start? You have to be, that's why he says, be irrationally self-confident, because the reason it's irrational is because you don't actually have the bona fides to back up what it is that you're talking about, but it has to start somewhere. So, and this is real controversial for women, because women are always looking for real, genuine cues. They're looking for real signals from men. The whole thing about hypergamy and the whole thing about the sexual filtering of men is based on women trying to discover whether the guy is actually who he says he is. Is he actually an attorney? Is he doing his residency in the hospital? Is he actually this guy, or is it just some guy that I met at the club and he's really a bartender, but he pretends to be something else? And I mean, to the point where they want to, they want to pass legislation that says if a woman has sex with you based on you presented yourself falsely, that's rape. That's where we're going with this. That's where the next Me Too frontier is. So, well, why is that? Because she's looking for genuine cues. So when guys get really sort of full of themselves, like most beta guys, most blue pill guys hate the irrationally self-confident guy, because they go and they build themselves up and they believe that they have real, genuine equity, but it doesn't get them anywhere. It doesn't, the equity card or the equity, the equity card doesn't buy much for them. But all this bluster and all these guys who are out there and they're running game, and maybe they don't have anything, like they're substanceless, they're superficial and substanceless, but those are the guys that women are reacting to. Those are the guys that women want to get with. And so here you are being like doing everything by the old social, the old set of rules. And you think that women should, only a quality woman would come. We wouldn't go for those guys. They'd come for me because I've built myself up and I'm Mr. Valuable and Mr. Dutiful. And maybe that works later on in life for them, but they believe that the guy who is irrationally self-confident hasn't put in he doesn't have the chops, right? He hasn't put in his time to warrant what he's got. Well, you still have to get off the ground at some point. So guys are going to probably be your worst critic when it comes to irrational self-confidence than women are. Women want that, they want the genuine signals, but it's the guys who get pissed off at you because you didn't earn your confidence.
Yeah, for example, what qualifies him to talk about that?
Right. I get that all the time.
Exactly like that. It's just,
what qualifies you to talk? Yeah, we talked. I don't want to get into it. We talked about that before.
It's a good example, though. That's because they feel threatened by that. All right, let's go to 12. Maximize your strengths, minimize your weakness. And the betterment of ourselves as men, we attract women into our orbit. To accomplish this gravitational pull as painlessly and efficiently as possible, you must identify your natural talents and shortcomings and parcel your efforts accordingly. It's like I use the phrase of the program all the time: stay in your lane, stay in your own lane. Find whatever it is that is your area of expertise. That's what you want to work on. If you spread yourself out over all this other stuff, you're never really going to be good at anything. Right.
Play to your strengths. Yep. I think he already at the end of that, he says something to the effect that like there are groupies for every male endeavor except for World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could be a plumber and you're in the plumber, social circle. And if you're the best damn plumber in the whole social circle, there's social proof for you, right? Maybe that's not as glamorous as being in the liquor agents, business or whatever, or being in talk radio or something like that. But if that's your local sexual marketplace and you're the best, you're the guy that all the other plumbers come to for advice, that's social proof. That's pre-selection. Playing your strengths.
Being in the radio business, I've had women come up to me and say, I wish my husband thought the way you did, or I could find somebody that thought like you, or my daughter could find somebody that thought like you. So you're pulling these people in, but that's what they find attractive.
Right. You go look at a guy like Mike Rowe. You know who Mike Rowe is? Mike Rowe is like, he's like a man's man, right? He's salt of the earth. And he builds, of course, that's his character that he's playing. But that's the regular, he's regular guy. He's regular Joe.
Yeah.
But he's attractive regular Joe. He's the kind of guy that he doesn't have the sexual pull of like,
but he's got
Brad
wit.
Pitt, but he's got wit, right? He's the guy that he's like the apex of the guy that women want to have babies with. And so what's he doing? He's playing to the strengths of that particular character that he's playing. But, but there's ways there. Like, I don't think a lot of guys realize that. They think that there's only one way to be an alpha, and that's like Chad, and you got to be out there and you got to have 6-pack abs and you got to be, you got to sit in the tanning bed until you're orange. That's that kind of stuff. You don't have to be that guy. You can be it within a context. And that's really, I think, what he's getting into.
Number 13, err on the side of too much boldness rather than too little.
Yeah.
I'll let you get into this one. They talk about touching a woman inappropriately on the first date will get you further with her than not touching her at all. Walk me through the details on this one.
Well, I would say be very, very cautious of that.
Especially
remember,
I was
going to say, remember, these rules were written before Me Too. So be careful. And I don't think that that's what he's advocating here anyways, as far as like, he's not saying, be like creepy Joe Biden, right? He's just saying that you have to enter interaction with boldness. And that's one of the 48 laws of power is you have to be able to be audacious, right? You can cover. Go ahead.
We talked about this last week. Just something as simple, the power of touch. Okay. Something as simple as holding a woman's hand. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell you how much value women put in that. To guys, it doesn't mean necessarily a lot. But the first time you do that with a girl, a woman, she can probably tell you exactly when it happened.
Right.
That's how important it is to her.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of those things that's romantic to a woman, but you didn't even plan on it. That's why I keep telling guys, he's like, you're never going to inspire romance in like date night or something like that, because it's contrived. Romance is never contrived. It's something that happened in that moment. And maybe you can sort of, direct actions and behaviors towards romance, but you can't overtly plan romance. You can't. Yeah. Anyways, I was going to say is, yeah, I mean, it's enter into action with boldness is part of, I forget which law it was, but it's 48 laws of power. And that applies to pretty much anything. Most women are like today, what are you reading?
I'm looking at the next one. I'm trying to figure out how do I make this family friendly?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, so anyways, we'll move on. But I'm just going to say is that women today are not used to having a guy actually approach them or actually be in any way proactive. I mean, we used to, back in the pickup artist days, it's called sarging, right? You want to go out there and make approaches, and you want to see if you could generate, IOIs, indicators of interest, those kinds of things. Part of that was keno. It was like touching a woman, and not like, hey, I'm going to give you a back massage kind of thing. It's like, just like, this kind of stuff, or just, it's light. It's not offensive. It's not like, hey, bitch, come over here. I'm going to pull you into this club. That especially today, it's a little weird, but the overall rule is good. You need to be bold. That's with anything.
14. So I'm going to give you the sanitized version. Make love to her boldly, passionately.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be the last time you ever have sex.
Like a hurricane of desire. How's that?
Just drain her of everything, then drain her some more.
Right.
It's beautiful. But that's, ideally, that's what you should be going for every time.
Well, yeah.
If you've got desire.
Right. And and women would probably, I think you would have certain women, like if you could like in some way sanitize this for your radio audience, I think a lot of women would probably be okay with that because of
passion.
Passion, but also remember how many women bought 50 Shades of Grey?
Christian women, number one.
Yeah, Christian women. Yeah, they're that's the thing is I think a lot of guys. Thanks for that 199 Mysterium. I love you too, man. But the women want that. They want that. They want to feel alive. They want to feel alive when they're having sex. They want to feel it's not that women don't like sex. Women they love sex. It's just that what they're looking for has to be far more specific for them to do. What was it? I think it was Robin Williams said, like, a woman needs to have a reason to have sex and men only need to have a place. Yeah. So you have to.
Sometimes they don't even need that, right?
Yeah, well, okay. I'll give you a really quick example of this. Like most guys don't understand this because they think because men and women are equal that she gets off on the same way that I get off, which is incorrect. When I was in my late 20s, I had a workout partner and his name was Dean, and this guy was 6'2" and just yoked and ripped, and he competed in bodybuilding contests, and then like once a month he did all male review at one of the clubs up here. And so he's my workout partner, and we were talking about stuff, and we got into the nuts and bolts of like what it is that these women want. Now, a lot of the chicks that are there are like kind of divorcees, and they're looking for, they're for lack of a better word, they're spinsters, right? But he said this is true for all women, whether it's young or they're old, is they're not just looking for the physical side of things. They need the fantasy side of it too. They need to, you can't just be the sexy hot guy on stage. You have to be the sexy fireman. You have to be the sexy exec with a lot of money who also has a rose for her and gives it to her, and then he does his striptease kind of thing. There has to be sort of an element of
story.
There's to be a story behind it. It's not just a physical thing. So I agree with Roissy on this, of course, 100%. It's figuring out how to consistently have that crazy, in the first 3 months of when you first start having sex with a woman, in the first 3 months of it, that's when you're having the crazy, hanging off the chandeliers, hot monkey sex, right? And then I want to move in, right? Okay, so she moves in, and then that's when things go downhill because you don't have that same intensity anymore, because all of the things that made you a mystery, but also all of the things that, like the competition anxiety, the sense of urgency is gone. Think about all of the things that go into making for a good, hot sexual encounter with a woman, with your wife. You can do those things, but you can't, again, you can't tell her about the game. You have to play the game. So you have to be the one that says, this is the way we're going to have sex tonight. This is how we're going to do this. And most guys won't do that. They won't do that because they're afraid that if they experiment that way, that their wife is going to say, I want a divorce. I'm out. I don't want to have anything to do with you, that kind of stuff. There are ways to go about that, which will take at least a show and a half to talk about. But
I want to get into the rest of these.
Yeah, let's get into the rest of these. Yeah.
So 14, maintain your state of control. You're the oak tree. You got to be that pillar. You can't be manipulated. Yeah, you cannot be manipulated by crying, yelling, lying, head games, sexual withdrawal, jealousy ploys, pity plays, shit tests, hot, cold, disappearing acts, or guilt trips.
Yep. I was going to say the number one way that men lose state control or they lose power is because they give into their emotions. They remember what I was just talking about, how men our natural proclivity as men is instinct, reason, and then emotion, but we're taught to be little girls, right? We're taught to act, it's better if the young boy acts like a girl. So we teach boys, we override that, right? We teach them to put emotion, and you need to express your emotion, and you need to be in touch with your feminine side. And, then girls will really like you because you're identifying with the feminine. Most guys do that. That's part of their, what I call beta game. Every person has game. It's just how effective is that game. Everybody has, even the most blue pill chump that has some inclination as to how to go from being single to getting with a girl. Now, how effective that actually is up for interpretation. But guys think that that's what's, that's the direction that they need to go. So what is working for you? Is it your emotional side or is it your rational side? And that's what he's talking about here, is you need to get back to the way your natural male proclivity of using reason, being the strong guy, because that's what women are looking for. That's part of competence. That's part of power. And so most guys will, particularly beta guys, will give into depression. They'll give into really kind of a state of hopelessness through interpreting everything through an emotional filter rather than a rational filter. I'm not saying don't feel anything. For sure feel stuff, because that's your emotional side does make you human. Prioritize it differently. You need to be in control of your emotions. How do you control emotions? Through reason.
Let's get to number 15. And I want to spin off on this a little bit. It says, never be afraid to lose her. You must not fear. Fear is the love killer. Fear is the ego triumph that brings abject loneliness. You will face your fear. You will permit it to pass over and through you. And when your ego fear is gone, you will turn and face your lover, and only your heart will remain. So what this reminds me of, and I bring this up on a couple of programs here, one of my favorite movies, Heat. Bobby De Niro, right? Robert De Niro plays Neil McCauley. He gives this little talk to Al Pacino at the bar or the restaurant. He says, don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. Problem with that is it's especially the longer you're with somebody. You've been married for what? You said 22 or 23 years.
23 years in July.
You can't tell me that she could just walk out or you walk out and that you're not going to feel something there. Because you got like 23 years built up.
Because you have an emotional investment. Yeah, of course. I have a huge investment in my relationship because there's a lot there because of a relational equity. Now, what he's talking about here is he pulled this right out of Dune. I don't know if you ever read the Frank Herbert. Yeah, right out of Dune. Fear is the mind killer, right? I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Yeah, that's a very famous Dune quote. And anybody who follows me on Twitter knows that I quote Dune quite a bit. That's where this is coming from. Is fear is the mind killer. This is great because what guys do is they because they have a scarcity mentality, they fear experimentation. They fear giving themselves permission to do things. They fear to one of the reasons why guys have buffers is they fear rejection. So they try to put something in between them and that rejection. Men experience rejection more than women do. Simple as that, because we are the ones who are expected to initiate. And I'm not saying that that's even we should change that. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not crying about that. I'm not saying anything different about that. You should be the one that is initiating and doing all of that. But there's a fear that guys have, particularly when they're not confident about themselves, they're not confident in their abilities, and whether it's dealing with a woman that they're already in a relationship with, or they're trying to put themselves out there. I think that when he wrote this, it was more for the guys who are trying to run game on girls, because there is that fear. That's that fear that she's out of my league, right? That's an iron rule of Tomasi, number 8. Don't never let a woman, or always let a woman figure out why she won't have sex with you. Never do it for her. Well, why is that even a rule? Well, it's because guys fear. They fear that they self-defeat. They won't even put themselves out there because they already have lost the game. In their heads, they've already lost the game. So why even try? Why do I even want to bother with that? Because why should I get in a relationship with a woman? Because she's hypergamous and she's going to go and find Chad, and I'm never going to measure up to the next biggest fish. Well, they don't think of those things through. But where does that come from? It comes from a state of fear. So you have to sort of move past that and give yourself permission. Well, people like guys fear to make themselves their mental point of origin because it's going to step on people's toes. They also fear the idea of actually being responsible for their own actions. Like they don't know what it is. They don't know what to do. And then if they screw up, then they don't know, like it's not on somebody else. It's not because their supervisor said something. It's because they made the choice to do that thing. And so they fear that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of basic stuff. I mean, you can apply this rule to things that are far beyond just intersexual dynamics.
All right. So we've gone through all 15. Let's get to the super chats.
All right. Isn't it 16? We got another one?
Oh, wait. No, you're right. No, sorry about that.
We got one more.
No. I would never be afraid to lose her. I must have jumped. What did I miss?
I don't know what you missed.
It says maintain your state of control. Never be afraid to lose her was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Err on the side of. Did I do err on the side of too much?
Yeah, I think it was never be afraid to lose her. Wasn't that the one?
Never be afraid. That was the last one. We just did that.
Oh, we did.
It's about fear.
Oh, maybe we were out of order. I don't know. Never be afraid to lose her. Never be afraid to walk away. Yeah.
Yeah. Connected with her? No, I think we went through it.
Okay, so I guess we went through all of these.
All right, let's go to super chats.
Somebody in the chat's gonna go, no, dude.
You missed this one.
You missed this one. Okay. I'm gonna do supers right now. Get them in if you want. Thank you so much for all of these. I'm hoping we can get to all of these before the end of the show. Anyways, also, real quick, make sure you hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button and also get the alerts, because if anybody saw my interview with Hotep Jesus on Friday, that was kind of a spur of the moment kind of thing that we did. Like we've been talking about doing it for a while, and then he went on Joe Rogan and he said, let's do it on Friday. So we did. So you would get an alert if you have subscribed and you're getting an alert. So please do that. Let's get started with these. Do we want to do the bonuses last, or do we want to just kind of let's just fire through these? Okay, let's just fire through these. This is from Rob Cruz, $20. Thanks, brother. Salute to the Rational Male and MLD. Oh, that's Modern Life Dating. Yeah, John. The game never stops. Remember that, everyone. Todd S. I don't know who you are, but thank you very much. No, excuse me. That was Rob Cruz. Todd S. Another $20. Thank you, brother. I think we have two separate definitions of vulnerability in Western culture. One is weakness, as you mentioned. The other is more along the lines of transparency. Alan,
that's a female definition of vulnerability.
Right.
You think so?
Okay. Yeah. I've got like two really good posts. One of them is called vulnerability. The other one is called surrender. And so if you want to learn a little bit more about my take on the idea of surrender, like transparency. Well, okay. Here's the thing is guys are vulnerable without even knowing that they're vulnerable. I mean, if you're going to get into a relationship with a woman, you're vulnerable. Why? Because she could very easily just, manipulate you and, run a Me Too, scam on you of some sorts. Yeah. You're vulnerable just for making the attempt. Mm-hmm. So let's just be honest here. In Western culture, we have never been more vulnerable as men in being that we are making our approaches and we're instigating and initiating things from a point of we could get raked over the coals for this kind of stuff. But if you want to read those, it's vulnerability and then there's surrender. So go ahead and have a look at those. I've already answered this in those. I hate to just throw a link there, but I want to get through these. Let's see.
This one, it says, "Hi Rolo, why do guys get friend zoned when they become her psychologist and emotional tampon? Isn't it alpha to take care of her emotions?" I think it's from Rainier Lopez.
Okay, it's one thing. It's okay. No, it's not, because you are a man and she is the woman. Okay, if she wants to be with her friends and she wants to get emotional with her friends, that's fine. Because what have I always said? I've said that men or women have boyfriends and girlfriends, and if you're not having sex with her, you are her girlfriend. So if you adopt the role of communicating with her as a woman does, if you are pandering to her emotions, if you are holding her hand and if you're apologizing for yourself, if you're doing these kinds of things that work within her emotional frame, and you're lost frame right there. Should you what does he say? Isn't it alpha to take care of her emotions? No, it's not. You need to be the bulwark, as Roissy puts it in here. You need to be the lighthouse in the storm is what you need. And what does he said? Her emotions are a tempest, and you need to be the rock in that tempest. That's exactly what he's talking about here. So why do guys get friend zoned when they become the psychologist and the emotional tampon? Well, that pretty much answers your question right there, because they've decided to opt for the role of not being the man and not being the primary in the relationship, and they've adopted the role of counselor, of beta, of good listener, of beta orbiter. That you might as well be her girlfriend. Like I said, you might as well communicate with her. If you communicate with her as a woman, her subconscious interprets you as a woman. That's why. What's the next one here? This is Rainier Lopez for $4.99. Thanks, brother. Hey, Rolo and Pat, what are your thoughts on men declaring love, proposing marriage? Society expects men to ask women, but there's a difference, right? I'm not really sure what you're getting at in that. Is there a difference from women asking men or men asking women?
I think when it comes to marriage, traditionally the guy asks the woman. I think what he's trying to ask him from freeing this is it the guy? Well, we covered this. This was number one on the list of the 16. Should the guy be the one to declare the love first? That's what he's asking.
No, and you should just rewind the tape here and you'll find out why. No, does society expect men to ask women? Not just society, your biology, it prompts you to be the one to initiate.
That's natural order.
That's the natural order. That's the way you evolved as a human being, as a man. Remember, you have, like, maybe I just need to run this out real quick here. As a guy, you have natural proclivities that are the result of 100,000 years of evolution. You are going to lean towards thinking certain things. Your brain is not wired the same way that a woman's is. Your emotional state, the way that you interpret things through instinct, emotion, and reason, or instinct, reason, and emotion, that is the result of your evolutionary firmware in the back of your head. That's just how you naturally are. Now, can guys be different? Sure they can, because think about it this way. You have hardware, firmware and you have software. Your hardware is your body and the way that you're wired, and your brain, your synapses, and your endocrine system, and everything that goes into you to make you as a man, right? That's the hardware. Then there's the firmware. Those are the things that you have natural proclivities for. Throwing a ball. There are naturally things that men have a proclivity for that women do not, and vice versa. Okay. So women tend to be more interested in people, men tend to be more interested in things. Go look up Dr. Steven Pinker if you want to understand what the innate gender differences are between men and women. That's the firmware. Then there's the software. Software is a society. It's what you've been told. It's the nurture part of this whole thing. The nature part is your hardware and your firmware. The nurture part is your software. Can software override firmware? Absolutely. You can teach a girl to throw like a boy, right? You can teach men to quote unquote get in touch with their feminine side. Okay. So what does that do? That's an override of their natural proclivities as men to behave and to respond as men naturally would. The thing I keep saying is since the sexual revolution, we have feminized our Western society to make men more feminine, whether that's like through soy or it's just this, it's a social engineering program is what it is. And it's not some Illuminati. It's not some like this, cabal of fiendish people going, how are we going to get all these guys? No, it's decentralized. It's at some point the ideology shifted to being pro-female after the sexual revolution. Sexual revolution is what prompted that. So that when I'm talking about like mental firmware, when I'm talking about software for men, think of it in those terms. All right, what's the next one here?
It says, my best friend was always alpha, I was beta. Since I swallowed the red pill, I'm becoming more alpha myself. Can two alphas be close friends? This is from Unpussified $20. Let me answer that one. Sure. Yes, you can. In fact, you can become best of friends unless you're competing for the same thing.
Right. That's a good one. Okay. Yes, they can. What's it? Hey, I've been meaning to ask you. Oh, this is Pizza Rolls. Thanks for the $5, man. I've been meaning to ask you. I remember reading on one of your old articles that you advise against boys being medicated like with Adderall. Why is that? Because here's the thing. I'm going to answer this with one book. Go read The Boy Crisis by Dr. Warren Farrell. You will understand everything you ever wanted to know about how we overprescribe like Ritalin and Adderall and all of these. Yeah, all of the we overprescribe. Well, we overdiagnose ADHD in boys. And why is that? Because we are primarily a feminine female social order, but also in our education, and we teach boys as if they're defective girls. That's part of that whole thing. Go read The Boy Crisis.
And the Ritalin, especially in like K through 8, is used on boys, like 90+% boys as opposed to girls.
Exactly, because boys acting like boys. Yeah. Again, here, this is a great example. So boys instinctually, and then and their natural proclivities are their their mental firmware is set up as a boy, right? That's how they want to go out and they want to run around, and they mature slower than girls, right? We know that from years and years of study. But because we have a feminine primary education system, if a boy acts like a boy, then we got to medicate him. We got to sedate him. We got to put him in the corner over there until he acts like a girl, until he starts learning like a girl, until he starts behaving like a girl, until he has the emotional capacity of a girl. Then we're going to feed him pills. Here you go. We're going to saltpeter, right? Just sit down and shut up kind of thing. And that's part of the education system. Right?
Let me hit this one. It says, would you agree? Apologies from women are mostly a tool to simply absolve themselves from accountability, not to actually take responsibility. I believe it's more of a tactical maneuver to skirt an issue so they can move on. I would tend to agree with that. When women say they're sorry, it's the word's perfect, to absolve themselves, to get them out of that. They're not really sorry. Well, I shouldn't say they're not really sorry, but in a lot of cases, they don't have that genuine contrition. They're sorry that it got them in this spot.
Yeah, exactly. And I like I was before talking about apology rule here. When was the last time you heard a woman apologize? I mean, for anything, but like to you personally, when was the last time a woman actually apologized to you? God forbid it would ever be at work, right? Or whatever. I'm fortunate that my wife is at least self-aware enough to sort of check herself occasionally, right? Like maybe it's from living with me or whatever, but like she will check herself, and sometimes I don't, it's not like I go, hey, you owe me apology. I would never say something like that, because that's an obligation. And I don't want it. If I have to say you owe me apology, then it's never going to, you're already, the pretense is it's never going to be a genuine thing. So it's like, if she doesn't come to it on her own, it's not genuine. And that to me is the more important thing. Now she, maybe she doesn't really need to apologize for anything, of course, but I would say that men tend to apologize more than women. Let's see. There's one last one up here that I think we missed. It says, hi, why, this is YOLO. Hi, why don't women stop nagging sometimes until you explode? How does she understand this behavior? Why don't we pass the test when we lose our cool? Well, I'll answer that last part. The first part, we've talked about nagging like ad infinitum, I think. But the reason women nag primarily is because there's a part of their subconscious that doesn't think that you are competent, or doesn't believe that you are the best that she can do. That's why women nag. It's when she's nagging with you, it's a conversation with herself. She's trying to figure out why she's still with a guy who can't like fix the sink, or can't, change the oil in the car, that kind of stuff. So there's this, or why don't you go out and mow the lawn? Well, it's not about the lawn. It's about her subconscious having a conversation with her conscious and saying, is this guy really, somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with? Now, why do we lose our cool? Well, this is the good one. Well, when we lose our cool, we lose state control. The number one thing, particularly for men, the number one thing that leads us to bad decisions is anger. And it is, sometimes it's warranted, but when you are because we have that proclivity is we default to anger, whereas women default to tears. So when we do that, we make bad decisions. That's when we become, that's when we become freeway shooters, right?
24-hour rule, where if I'm there's a situation, whatever it is, I give myself 24 hours to actually respond to it, especially if it's something very important, because things can look very different in 24 hours, and you're going to say or do something that would not have been what we would have done instantaweously. By the way, you say anger is the number one thing that leads to bad decisions. I thought you were going to say sex is the number one thing that leads to bad decisions.
Well, yeah, when we're talking about emotional states, okay, yeah, gotcha. Sex leads to bad decisions as well. Well, but see, what got the things that got you to that sexual point?
Right.
That's maybe what you need to deal with more than the actual sex part. Like, every guy wants to have sex, but what is it that got you to sex that you're going to regret, or that you're going to, that's going to get you in trouble life-wise, like for decisions that you made. Do you want to get to those? I think we're done with these. Do you want to get to the bonus question real quick, or do you have time?
We can actually do a program on this another time. I want to do the creepy one. In fact, we should probably do a show on that, either on my local show or on the Rational Male here, 101.
Yeah.
Creepy. It's a word that has become weaponized and used against men, and we get a whole segment on what constitutes creepy, because behavior from what, and it's a lot of times it's dependent on looks or status, physical appearance or status. For example, if a lady's on the treadmill at the gym or doing the stairs, whatever, and there's some guy that's looking at her a little bit too long. If it's a handsome guy, that's not a problem, right? But if it's some jerk in a wife beater, all of a sudden he's creepy. So what constitutes? It's like a word that's overused. It's like the term racist. It's just thrown around loosely, and it can mean a lot of different things. It's a compartment word. It can mean whatever you want to mean at any given time.
Yeah, for sure. I have a 3-part series about why it is that women get creeped out by a guy. It's called The Creep. It's a 3-part series. Primarily, when women find guys creepy, it's because that guy already checks off the boxes for a guy that she doesn't want to have sex with, that she doesn't want to have. She doesn't want him to think that he has a chance with her. And so there's that kind of creep aspect. And maybe we should probably just do a full show on this.
Guys aren't picking up the social cues, and they're staying too long. That's part of the problem.
Here's the thing. I think the problem is that women believe that men should police themselves. They should police their desires. They should police their, they should know that they're betas. They should know that they are not somebody that a woman will want to get with. And so therefore they should not even bother approaching them. Because if they do, then they're creepy. Because they miss social cues, yes, for sure. That's an aspect of it. But I mean, the joke is this: is like the hot guy goes into the office and says, "Hey, looking great, Susan," and she's like, "Oh," you know, because she really wants to get with the hot guy. And then the big fat dude comes in and he goes, "Hey, looking great, Susan," and she calls HR. Right, because she thinks that he's a creep. Well, the thing is the within an instantaneously, the guy who is more sexually attractive, the guy who is more obviously somebody she would want to reproduce with, as opposed to the other guy should know better, and then the other guy gets a break. Remember what I said: women make rules for beta men, and they break rules for alpha men. So they can say, "Well, that's creepy for a guy to come up and approach me." Unless he's Brad Pitt, right? Unless he looks good, unless he's an alpha guy, she's going to break that rule. And that happens in a millisecond because she sees the guy and she goes, "Yeah, I'll break the rule for that dude." And then she sees the guy who is maybe less attractive. Now, those are two extremes. What about the guy who's right in between those guys? What about the guy who is he's got a little bit of social gravitas? He's not quite as good looking as Brad Pitt, but he's not looking like Seth Rogen, right? So he's the guy that's in between, and that's the guy that has the most problem, because a guy who knows he's unattractive he knows what he has to do. He's got to work on himself. He's got to build himself up. The guy who's already the natural alpha, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? It's the guy that's in the middle. And that's where the Me Too crap happens, because women decide that they want to have sex with them, or it's more convenient to have sex with them than have this awkward thing go and not have sex with them. And that's where you get that gray area. And unfortunately, there's a lot of money in that gray area right now because of Me Too. I got one last one here. Redman Anon hit me up. He says, "Not going to lie, I think demonstrate versus explicate can destroy potentially good relationships. When it comes to friends, sometimes it's better to explain, and if it's not taken seriously, then demonstrate." What do you think? I think that explaining yourself, if that is your first impulse, then I think that comes as almost like a buffer. Okay, it's like, I have to explain this, and I have to let everybody know what it is that I was thinking, rather than, it means my actions or the way I was demonstrating was interpreted differently, or was interpreted in a way that I didn't intend it to be. So it's not that explanations aren't necessary. It's that demonstrating things and doing stuff, doing the work, going out there and proving that your actions are always going to be more intentional and are always going to speak loud, like, actions speak louder than words, right? Does that mean you don't say anything? No, of course again, it's this goddamn, binary stuff. It's like, well, should I just demonstrate or should I just explicate? No, it's not. Okay. Can sometimes an explanation is necessary. You've got to say something to tell somebody that, hey, you interpreted that the wrong way. Like, what was I saying before about apologies, right? If I'm going to say, hey, look, you interpreted that wrong, I'm not going to give you an apology. I still have to explicate. I still have to say that. But that's one instance. The other instances is if a woman says, "I want to go on a girls' night out." Okay, well, then the medium is the message, right? And I have to set a boundary. And the best way to set that boundary is not to explain it, but it is to demonstrate what those boundaries are, because boundaries are ineffective unless there is teeth in them, unless it hurts, unless there's something that goes along with there has to be consequences to a boundary. So that's another thing. So what's better? Is it better to demonstrate your boundaries, or is it better to explicate your boundaries? Well, if you're all you're ever doing is explicating your boundaries, then you're a paper tiger. There's nothing to you.
We can do the creeper thing on another.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. I got another real quick one here. Christian Gray, I'm going through the Tarzan effect. Why can't I seem to attract any women? 50 to 60 approaches, no numbers and hookups. Easier during blue pill and purple pill days to spin plates. Okay.
What is the Tarzan effect?
Okay, I Good question, man. I have no idea what you're talking about with the Tarzan effect, but here's the thing. If you're spamming approaches, if you're doing 50 to 60 approaches, first of all, I think this is BS. Okay. So let me tell you right now, Christian Gray, because guys will say this, well, it's, it's all these pickup artists. They think that it's a numbers game. No, it is not a numbers game. It is a persistence and a consistency game. Okay. I'll give you the example that I always give. And it is this, is that go out and make one approach every weekend with a new girl. Promise yourself, say, you know what, it's Friday night, I'm going to go out and make an approach. If it fails, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to figure out what's going on. I'll try to adjust. I'll try to calibrate a little bit. Maybe you want to do 2 in a weekend, whatever. Don't do more than 1 or 2. But if you do one consistently every single weekend for a year, you've done 52 approaches. And that is more approaches than most guys will do in a lifetime. So if you're spamming approaches and nothing's working for you, it's because you're spamming approaches. It's because you're not taking it seriously. Now, I don't think that you are even doing that, because most guys don't have the balls to spam 50, 60 approaches, in an evening or a weekend or whatever else it is that you're doing. But I don't know what the Tarzan effect is. So maybe you can email me or let me know in the comments here. So anyways. So we're up. All right, we got to get out. All right, you guys. Thank you very much for another great show, Mr. Campbell.
Back here Sunday.
Yeah, we will be. Let's see. Is anything else going up? We're going to be back here Sunday. I will be doing Rule 0, which is our sort of pass around show that's going to be going on Saturdays. Look at my Twitter feed for that, or subscribe to me. Subscribe to Ryan Stone. Subscribe to all the guys in that are the regulars, and you'll get a notification at some point. Just something we're doing right now. We just want to have some, group chat kind of thing. And we'd like to include you guys as well. I will be on Pat's show. Let's tell him what time.
We're going to do that on Friday. I will let you know by Wednesday, no later than Wednesday.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, man. Good show. Thanks for watching. And again, if please hit the subscribe button, please hit the like button. And if you have any questions about anything we talk about in the show, then hit me up in the comments.
Share it on social media too.
Yep. That's good. Okay.